But number 10, we have the document hanging on the wall. Now, in the direction of the eastern wall, between the door of repentance or Bab-e-Tawbah and the Kaaba's door, there is a document printed on the board of marbles. The document is of King Fahd bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and now this document indicated the date of renovation. Next up, let's talk about the door of the Kaaba. The door of the Kaaba, also known as Bayt-ul-Allah, is located at the eastern wall. Now, this door is believed to have been built by the Prophet Ibrahim himself. Previously, it was said that there was actually no door in the Kaaba. There was only a portal in the eastern wall to enter and exit the building. Now, the door from the interior is covered with a beautiful silk curtain which has silver and gold prints. Now let's look at the stairs at number 8. So on the right side of the interior, there is a staircase leading to the roof, which is accessed through the door of repentance. Now the stairs leading to the Kaaba's roof are mostly made of aluminum. The right side interior of the Kaaba is a Levantine corner and resembles an enclosed rectangular structure that has no windows. In the Kaaba, you'll also notice some pretty interesting decorative stones. And one of these stones is decorated with Arabic calligraphy using the script of Kufic. Now, the words that are embossed on these stones are made of beautiful, colorful pieces of marble. There are a total of 10 stones inside the Kaaba, and the words on them were written after the 6th century AH. Number 6 leads us to the curtain of the Kaaba. So inside of the Kaaba, it's covered with a red silk curtain that has a texture of embroidery on it. It has an inscribed weave in cream-colored silk over the dark red ground. Now, the central band has a prominent inscription of the Kalimat al-Tawhid, which means that there is no God except Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. Now, other than this, there can be seen 2 expressions, Ya Mana and Ya Hanan, written in Qaswa. Both these expressions are names of Allah. Okay, number 5 leads us to the walls and floor. The walls of the interior of the Kaaba are decorated with colorful emblazoned marble. The floor of the Kaaba is made of marble and limestone. Now, the color of most of the marble is white, but some pieces are colored as well. The 13 meter by 9 meter or 43 feet by 30 feet interior walls are tiled with white marble halfway to the roof with darker trimmings along the floor. The interior floor is approximately 2.2 meters or 7 feet 3 inches above the ground area where tawaf is performed. Now, number 4 is pretty interesting. There's some pots hanging on the inside. Now, there's a number of golden colored lamp-like structures that are hung inside the Kaaba. Nobody yet knows the reason why they are hanging and what they really refer to. But these pots are hanged with a rope, and the rope is tied to the pillars inside of the Kaaba. And these are referred to as gift of Kaaba. And for number 3, let's actually look at the pillars inside of the Kaaba. Every single column inside of the Kaaba is in square shape. And between these 3 columns, a pillar is present. The pillar passes through all of the columns. Now, there is a small altar or table set between one and the other 2. Now, the sides of the pillar are extended to the southern and northern walls of the interior of the Holy Kaaba. To these walls, the various lamp-like objects are attached. For number 2, let's talk about the wood that you're going to notice in the interior of the Kaaba. 49 pieces of the world's most powerful wood hold the inside of the Kaaba. The Kaaba's roof is supported by 49 pieces of teak wood imported from Burma and processed in Jeddah. They are evenly distributed on the Kaaba's walls, and teak tree wood is well known for its durability. They grow in the Southeast Asian tropical forests and can reach a height of 45 meters. They are commonly used in shipbuilding and other high quality industries. Coming in at number 1, we have the wooden columns. The area, which is less than 180 square meters, contains 3 wooden columns that support the Kaaba's ceiling. Now, each of the dark brown columns, which is over 1,300 950 years old, has a perimeter of about 150 centimeters and a diameter of 44 centimeters. Each column is supported by the square wooden base. Now, a pillar suspended from the Kaaba's gifts is located between the three columns. Now, Hajj is a pilgrimage in Islam that must be performed by Muslims who are capable health-wise as well as financially. Now, this is an essential part for a Muslim's life that needs to be completed once in a lifetime. Now, mostly the Hajj ritual is performed as part of an obligatory pillar of Islam, and the Kaaba is at the epicenter of the city of Mecca. Building is at the center of Islam's most important mosque, the Great Mosque of Mecca. So both men and women, they dress in white clothing, which is known as ibrahim, during Hajj. Now, this symbolizes the state of purity that they're entering. Also, the Kaaba is sometimes called the house of Allah. The Quran states that the Kaaba was the first ever house of worship for Muslims, and guess what? It was also built on instructions directly by Allah by the prophets Ibrahim and his son Ismail. So it goes way back, even before the time of the Prophet Muhammad. But speaking of that, actually, you see the Kaaba originally? Now, guys, speaking of that, actually, the Kaaba being built way back, did you know that the Kaaba that we see today is not exactly the same Kaaba as was constructed by the prophets Ibrahim and Ismail? So from time to time, the Kaaba needed to be rebuilt after natural disasters as well as man-made disasters. There was also a major reconstruction during the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Actually, as a matter of fact, it was done before he even became a prophet. Since then, there has been an average of one major reconstruction that's done every century. Now, the last renovation, however, took place back in the year 1996, and this one was intense. It was extremely thorough, and it led to the replacement of many of the stones, as well as re-strengthening the foundations and adding in a new entire roof. So it's likely that the next reconstruction won't actually be done or needed for centuries to come. And this is because modern building techniques and materials ensure that the Kaaba is as secure as it has ever been. So now most times when we see the Kaaba, it looks like this. You see that? It's all black and it has a gold band going around it. But did you know that the Kaaba actually used to be multicolored? Yeah, no, I didn't either. And you know, this tradition of the Kaaba being black actually seems to have started at the time of Abbasids, and it was said that their household color was black. And before that, the Kaaba was covered in multiple colors, including green, red, and even white. Also, another interesting fact is, according to Islamic tradition, there are actually two Kaabas. The Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur means frequented house, or the house which is situated on the seventh heaven is directly above the Kaaba on earth. And it's, according to Muslim beliefs, the angels make tawaf, which is going around the Kaaba 7 times, similar to when Hajj is performed or umrah is performed. And by the way, umrah is different from Hajj because Hajj has specific times that it's conducted, but umrah can be done any time of the year. So apparently this Kaaba on earth is a replica of the Kaaba in the 7th heaven. Angels perform prayers there, and every single day it's said that 70,000 angels visit it. Now, this will continue up until the day of resurrection. All right, guys, so moving on to fact number 5. So at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, each and every aspect to do with the rites of Hajj was actually in the hands of different subgroups of the Quraysh tribe. And now every one of these would eventually lose control of the guardianship of a particular rite except for one. Now, on the conquest of Mecca, the Prophet Muhammad was given the keys to the Kaaba, and instead of keeping it in his own possession, he returned them back to Usman ibn Talha of the Bani Shaiba family. Now, they had been the traditional key keepers of the Kaaba for centuries, and the Prophet Muhammad confirmed them as being the ones to fit that role up until the end of time by saying these words: "Take it, O Bani Talha, eternally up to the day of resurrection, and it will not be taken from you unless by an unjust, oppressive tyrant." Now, what many people don't know is that one of the major problems with the Kaaba was that it was situated at the bottom of a valley, and when rain used to fall, the valleys actually used to flood. So this was not an uncommon occurrence in Mecca, but it was a cause of a lot of trouble before the days of flood control systems as well as modern sewage systems were put in place. So for days on end, the Kaaba would actually be submerged submerged in water. But it did not stop the Muslims from performing the tawaf. They literally started swimming around the Kaaba. That's dedication right there. So you guys know how the Kaaba looks. We've put up many pictures and clips of it already. But did you know that it was actually never meant to be a cube? See, the original dimensions of the Kaaba included the semicircle area known as the Hajar Ismail, and that's actually not supposed to be a cube shape. So when the Kaaba was actually rebuilt just a few years before the Prophet Muhammad received his first revelation, the Quraysh tribe agreed to only use income from pure sources to complete the rebuilding. And that meant that no money from gambling or stealing or prostitution or anything like that could be used. But you know, the crazy thing was that a lot of the money that they had, there wasn't enough of it that was untainted to be used to rebuild the Kaaba to its original size and shape. So they had to just use the money and rebuild it the best they could, as close to the original shape as possible. Now, another fascinating aspect of the Kaaba is that inside of it, there's actually a place where the Prophet Muhammad is said to have prayed. The inside of the Kaaba is actually infused with a mix of musk and authentic sandalwood perfumes, and they've been reapplied throughout the years. Floors of the Kaaba are made of white marble framed by 4-meter-high rosewood marble running parallel to the walls. Now, at the inner entrance, located in the back of the Kaaba, there's actually this little niche there where the Prophet Muhammad performed his prayers. And this area is actually indicated by different colored marble. And finally, the last surprising and interesting fact related to the Kaaba is the stoning of the devil. What am I talking about? Well, it's part of the annual Islamic Hajj pilgrimage, and during this ritual, Muslim pilgrims actually throw pebbles and stones at 3 walls that were previously pillars, and these walls are called Jamarat in the city of Mina, just east of Mecca. Now, it is one of the series of ritual acts that must be performed in a Hajj. It's pretty much a symbolic reenactment of the Prophet Ibrahim's Hajj, where he stoned 3 pillars, and that represented the temptation to disobey God and preserve Ismail, his son.
The first fact on this list has to do with Mecca's etymology and usage. Mecca is the familiar form of the English translation for the Arabic name of the city, although the official translation used by the Saudi government is Mecca, spelled as M-A-K-K-A-H, which is closer to the Arabic pronunciation. The full official name is Mecca al-Mukarrama, which means Mecca the Honored, but is also loosely translated as the Holy City of Mecca. The ancient or early name for the site of Mecca is known as Becca. Widely believed to be a synonym for Mecca, it is said to be more specifically the early name for the valley located therein, while Muslim scholars generally use it to refer to the sacred area of the city that immediately surrounds and includes the Kaaba. Another surprising fact about Mecca is that its 2 million population actually triples during the pilgrimage periods. The pilgrimage to Mecca attracts millions of Muslims from all over the world. There are 2 main pilgrimages, the Hajj and the Umrah. The Hajj, the greater pilgrimage, is performed annually in Mecca and nearby sites. During the Hajj, several million people of varying nationalities come together to worship. Every adult, healthy Muslim who has the financial and physical capacity to travel to Mecca and can make the arrangements for their care of their dependents during the trip must perform the Hajj at least once in a lifetime. Umrah, which is known as the lesser pilgrimage, is not obligatory but is recommended in the Quran. So the Meccan economy has been heavily dependent on the annual pilgrimage. As one academic put it, Meccans have no means of earning a living but by serving the Hajjis. Income generated from the Hajj in fact not only powers the Meccan economy but has historically had far-reaching effects on the economy of the entire Arabian Peninsula. The income was generated in a number of ways. One method was taxing the pilgrims. Taxes especially increased during the Great Depression, and many of these taxes existed as late as 1972. Another way the Hajj generates income is through services to pilgrims. For example, the Saudi national airline Saudia generates 12% of its income from the pilgrimage. Fares paid by pilgrims to reach Mecca by land also generate income, as do the hotels and lodging companies that house them. The city takes in more than $100 million, while the Saudi government spends about $50 million on these services for the Hajj. There there are some industries and factories in the cities, but Mecca no longer plays a major role in Saudi Arabia's economy, which is mainly based on oil exports. Mecca's culture has been affected by a large number of pilgrims that arrive annually, and thus boasts a rich cultural heritage. As a result of the vast numbers of pilgrims coming to the city each year, Mecca has become by far the most diverse city in the Muslim world. In contrast to the rest of Saudi Arabia, and particularly Najd, Mecca has, according to the New York Times, become a striking oasis of free thought and discussion, and also of unlikely liberalism. In fact, Mecca owns its own hometown paper known as Al Nadwa. However, other Saudi and international newspapers are also provided in Mecca, such as the Saudi Gazette, Al Madina, Okaz, and Al Bilad. The first three are Mecca's primary newspapers, focusing mainly on issues that affect the city, with over 1 million readers. In pre-modern Mecca, the most common sports were impromptu, wrestling, and foot races. Football is the most popular sport in Mecca, and the city is hosting some of the oldest sport clubs in Saudi Arabia, such as Al Wahda FC, established in 1945. And of course, the King Abdulaziz Stadium, which is the largest stadium in Mecca with a capacity of 38,000 people. The city of Mecca actually happens to be home to the Black Stone, which is set in the eastern corner of the Kaaba. It is revered by Muslims as an Islamic relic, which, according to Muslim tradition, dates back to the time of Adam and Eve. The stone was venerated at the Kaaba in pre-Islamic times, and according to Islamic tradition, it was set intact into the Kaaba's wall by the Islamic prophet Muhammad, 5 years before his first revelation. Since then, it has been broken into fragments and is now cemented into a silver frame in the side of the Kaaba. Its physical appearance is that of a fragmented dark rock, polished smooth by the hands of pilgrims. Islamic tradition holds that it fell from heaven as a guide for Adam and Eve to build an altar. It has often been described as a meteorite. Muslim pilgrims circle the Kaaba as a part of the tawaf ritual during the hajj, and many try to stop to kiss the black stone, emulating the kiss that Islamic tradition records that it received from Muhammad. Muslims, however, do not worship the black stone. So this next fact actually has to do with the cuisine in the city of Mecca. As in other Arab cities, kabsa, which is a spiced dish of rice and meat, is the most traditional lunch in the city. But the Yemeni mandi, which is a dish of rice and tandoori cooked meat, is also quite popular. Grilled meat dishes such as shawarma, kofta, and kebab are widely sold in Mecca. During Ramadan, fava beans in olive oil and samosas are the most popular dishes and are eaten at dusk. These dishes are almost always found in Lebanese, Syrian, and Turkish restaurants. And the mixture of different ethnicities and nationalities amongst Meccan residents has significantly impacted Mecca's traditional cuisine. The city has been described as one of the most cosmopolitan Islamic cities with international cuisine. Traditionally, during the month of Ramadan, men are provided with mineral water and fruit juice for Muslims breaking their fast at dusk. In the 20th century, many fast food chains opened franchises in Mecca, catering to locals and pilgrims alike. Exotic foods such as fruits from India and Japan are even often brought by the pilgrims as well. Another surprising fact that most people don't know about Mecca is that there are many public and private schools for both girls and boys, but the city only has one university. Formal education started to be developed in the late Ottoman period, continuing slowly into and Hashemite times. The first major attempt to improve the situation was made by a Jeddah merchant known as Muhammad al-Zainal Rida, who founded the Madrasat al-Falih in Mecca in 1911 that cost £400,000. As of 2005, there were 532 public and private schools for males and another 681 public and private schools for female students. The medium of instruction in both public and private schools is Arabic, with emphasis on English as a second language. But some private schools founded by foreign entities such as international schools use the English language for the medium of instruction. For higher education, the city only has one university, as I mentioned, known as al-Qura University, which was established in 1949 as a college and became a public university in 1979 as well. Next up on the list at number 3 is the fact that in 2010, the Mecca area became an important site for paleontology with respect to primate evolution with the discovery of a Sirenius fossil. Sidanius is considered to be a primate closely related to the common ancestor of the old world monkeys and apes. The fossil habitat near what is now known as the Red Sea in western Saudi Arabia was a damp forest area between 28 million and 29 million years ago. The city of Mecca also happens to be home to the Well of Zamzam, which is a well located in the Masjid of Haram, 20 meters east of the Kaaba. According to Islam, it is a miraculously generated source of water from God, which sprang thousands of years ago when Ibrahim's son Ismail was left with his mother Hajar in the desert, where he was thirsty and kept crying. The name of the well comes from the phrase Zomi Zomi, meaning stop flowing, a command repeated by Hajar during her attempt to contain the spring water. Millions of pilgrims visit the well each year while performing the Hajj or Umrah pilgrimages in order to drink its water. Another holy place that Mecca is home to is known as Jabal al-Nur, which is a mountain near Mecca in the Hijazi region. The mountain houses the grotto or cave of Hira, which holds tremendous significance for Muslims throughout the world, as the Islamic Nabi Prophet Muhammad is said to have spent a great deal of time in this cave meditating, and it is widely believed that it was here that he received his first revelation, which consisted of the first 5 ayats of Surah Al-Alaq from the angel Jibreel. The mountain itself is barely 640 meters. Nonetheless, 1 to 2 hours are needed to make the strenuous hike to the cave. There are 1,750 steps to take to the top, which can take anywhere between 25 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. Last but certainly not least on the list is the fact that non-Muslims are actually prohibited from entering the city of Mecca. Mecca was long ruled by Muhammad's descendants, the Sharifs acting either as independent rulers or as vassals to larger polities. It was conquered by Ibn Saud in 1925. Non-Muslims may not enter or travel through Mecca, and attempting to enter Mecca as a non-Muslim can actually result in penalties such as a fine. Being in Mecca as a non-Muslim can also result in deportation. In the city of Medina, however, both Muslims and non-Muslims are allowed in.
But starting off with number 10, going down to number 1, we have, what is Hajj anyways? That's the first thing we're going to talk about. Hajj is the religious pilgrimage performed in ritual stages in and around the holy city of Mecca and is required of all Muslims. The Hajj pilgrimage involves several rituals in honor of the Islamic prophet Muhammad and also events relating to Muhammad and his ancestor known as Ibrahim or Abraham in the Bible, who was also a prophet. For fact number 9, this is also the largest religious gathering. Around 3 million Muslims coming from all around the world perform Hajj in Saudi Arabia. Hajj is performed in the most sacred and holiest mosque for Muslims, and the name of the mosque is Masjid al-Haram, also known as the Sacred Mosque or the Great Mosque of Mecca. And for the most part, the pilgrimage is for about 6 days, and it starts during the 12th and final month of the Islamic calendar known as Dhul Hajj. Now, I did mention that this is required for all Muslims, but it's also one of the 5 pillars of Islam. In Islam, there are 5 fundamental practices that Muslims must perform, and these are known as the 5 pillars of Islam. And Hajj is one of those 5 pillars, and this needs to be performed by every single Muslim, but there is a condition. This pillar must be completed at least once in a Muslim's lifetime, and certain parameters are set to reduce the pressure of performing Hajj. So performing Hajj only applies to adult Muslims who are physically and financially capable of undertaking the journey. Next up at number 7, let's talk about there being no gender segregation. In Islam, there is supposed to be gender segregation in most Muslim mosques anyways, but while Muslims are at the Grand Mosque during Hajj, there is no gender segregation at all. There are men and women who stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and this is meant to show that everyone is equal in the eyes of God. However, after Hajj is completed, that's when gender segregation is recognized once again. Fact number 6 is probably one of our most unique facts in this episode. It looks at the dress code. There is a certain dress code that is required to be worn when you perform Hajj. Muslims, they are to shed all signs of their wealth and societal status and distinctions by wearing simple white garments, and these clothing are commonly called ihram. Men and women are supposed to be dressed in white. For men, they wear 2 white cloths without seams or stitches. One covers the body from the waist down, and one of them gathers around the shoulders. Sandals are to be made without stitches, and before wearing the ihram clothing, men shave their heads and they trim their beards and clip their nails. Now, women, they typically wear a simple white dress that covers them from head to toe, and they include a headscarf, and they often remove any face covering. They are not allowed to wear any perfume or jewelry, and the dress code is to show that everyone is equal and it symbolizes purity. Continuing with number 5, let's look at the different names. Now, we know that Hajj in particular only happens during the 12th month of the Islamic calendar. So that's name number 1, Hajj. But Muslims, however, they are always welcome to visit the city of Mecca or any of the surrounding holy sites during any other time of the year. But when Muslims perform this Hajj ritual, or if you can call it that, Hajj ritual, I mean more like pilgrimage ritual, during other times of the year, then they call it umrah. And you can kind of consider this more of like a minor pilgrimage compared to Hajj, the major pilgrimage. So to summarize, when you perform it during Dhul Hajj, it's called Hajj. And when you perform any other time of the year, it is umrah. Speaking of names, did you know that the people who perform the pilgrimage also go by a name? Those who perform the Hajj are called Hajis, and sometimes these people, they embrace the title of Hajis and they put that in front of their name following their completion of Hajj. This title is recognized highly within the Muslim culture all around the world. For fact number 3, I want to look a little bit at the origins of Mecca, where Hajj is performed. Mecca is a place that was developed after the Prophet Ismail and his mother Hajra, or Hagar, according to the Bible, found the spring of Zamzam water, and that was located in the desert. Now, Hajra was the Prophet Ibrahim's wife, or also Abraham in the Bible, and Hajra ran 7 times back and forth between the hills of Safa and Marwa looking for a drop of water for her and her son. That's when Ishmael or Ismail started scraping the land of the desert with his feet, and then out of nowhere, water started to pour out of the ground. And this is the water that pilgrims drink during Hajj. There's also quite a bit of modernization that has changed how Hajj is done. In 1950, for example, about 100,000 Muslims performed Hajj, but Muslims are also discouraged from taking photos and things like that. But nowadays, with advanced infrastructure and technology, more and more people are able to perform Hajj. The Saudi government also has really made Mecca into a global marketplace, and the sacred mosque has expanded to allow for more people. But this is something that some Muslims have condemned, as it is seen as a step towards over-commercializing Hajj. But either way, with now advanced air traffic and complex systems to organize Hajj, it really helps to facilitate the flow of the Hajj experience. And finally, let's end off with number 1. The building in the center of the Great Mosque is known as the Kaaba, also known as the House of God. Now, it is believed that this house, the Kaaba, was built by the first human being on the planet, Prophet Adam, according to Islam. Then the Kaaba was renovated by the Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail. If you don't know already, the Kaaba is a giant cubical structure, and when Muslims come to perform Hajj or Umrah, they go around the house in an anti-clockwise direction 7 times, which is known as tawaf.